You know, we all know that because of the sins of individuals and nations, that God is going to have to intervene one day. But he's mad at something else also. If you want to put the word mad, I guess it'd be the correct word to use. It is what we have done to his earth. He's very upset over this, what he's done to it. So the title of this sermon is The Transformation of Planet Earth. The transformation of planet Earth. And that's what this earth needs. If you have just average intelligence, anyone out there watching this later, you have to realize that this planet is suffering from a gigantic ecological disaster, headache, if you want to put it that way. Now, you'll know this if you live in China, where it's so polluted they have to wear a mask in certain cities every day. I think it's in Pakistan also. I saw the other day such a health issue there. Maybe in I think it's in Pakistan, one of those cities over there. So you're well aware of that if you live in one of those places where you can't breathe air. I think Los Angeles, I don't know if it's ever cleared up or not, but it used to be the same way. It's such smog from all the cars, it's unhealthy. So if you live in one of those areas, you're well aware of that. So what is the primary cause, and even more, what is the ultimate cure for what this planet needs? What causes all this stuff? So let's think just for a minute. So let's use the mind God has given us and think for a moment of this Earth's ecosystem as a finely tuned, precision piece of machinery, this Earth when it's first created. And you remember Job said in Job it says the angels shouted for joy when they first saw this Earth. So it was a beautiful place. Everything was perfect. Everything was right where it should be. It was in balance. And that's the way God wanted it to be. And it was a fine piece of machinery that was finely tuned to work exactly the way it's supposed to work. But the thing is, God left man in charge of this earth. He put him at the controls, and they began to twist various knobs and levers and buttons. And every now and then that little red light tilt would come on. Every time a new adjustment was made. And the funny thing about this, after 6,000 years of such repeated trial and error, the operator, being mankind, still doesn't understand how this earth ticks. We keep constantly destroying what we have to live on. The water is polluted, the land is polluted, the air is polluted, your food is polluted. And I remember when I was in Japan, they had a thing called a Benjo ditch. That means the toilet was outside, running through a ditch. And I think I saw it somewhere else, maybe in Bangkok. I saw something like that happen. So why is this? Why he is like me? I think I typed this wrong here. Let me just look at it a minute. It doesn't sound right the way I typed it. So I must have been not wearing my glasses that day when I typed this. It says, why is he like me after buying some type of equipment that he has to put together? Okay. It's like when you go buy something, a piece of machinery or whatever it is, a thing you have to put together, there's instructions come with it. And the same thing is this earth. There was instructions came with this earth, how to take care of it. But we haven't done that. But in this instance, the operator figures he could run the machine, that is this earth, about any way he saw fit, regardless of what the manual said. They could care less what the manual is talking about the Bible, being the manual had to operate, had to take care of God's earth, and they don't pay any attention to it at all. They'll destroy it. There's one show on television called Gold Rush or something like that. And they use dynamite, they use heavy equipment to tear the ground up, to destroy it, just to find gold. Several years ago, where the law got involved, they would come in there in Kentucky and strip mine and just leave it. But they made them go back and plant trees and things like this. But they would never done it. They just tear the mountain apart. And if you go through there somewhere in Bell County and look around, in the wintertime, and you can see where these four-wheel drives have destroyed the mountain. You can see it all through there. Nobody cares. But this all started with just one man. That guy's name was Adam. It all started. The one who designed and created the planet Earth did not leave him in ignorance regarding the care, the maintenance of this ecosystem. In Genesis, the first chapter. Genesis, the first chapter, verse 28. And God told Adam, "See, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, over every living thing that moves upon the earth." So God gave Adam the responsibility of caring for and maintaining and improving his environment. So what was Adam's specific job he had to do? It's in the second chapter, in verse 15. Now here he was in the Garden of Eden. And God told Adam regarding the Garden of Eden, he was to dress it and to keep it, or to maintain, to improve this lush piece of real estate. He was in charge of the Garden of Eden, to maintain it. That's what I do at my house. I say, this is not my home. This is not my yard. It doesn't belong to me. So this is what God gave me. And I have my responsibility to maintain my home, my yard, and everything else. And I try to do it the best I can. But the older I get, the less I don't want to do it. It begins to be a hard work to do that, to keep your house and everything going. But as long as I'm able to do that, I'll do what he says to maintain it and to keep it. So instead of following God's instructions, he opted out for the approach originated by Satan the devil, that of lust, of greed, and selflessness. Genesis the third chapter, verse 6. Genesis the third chapter, verse 6. So when he saw, this is Satan, he said, when he saw the woman, so when the woman saw the tree, it was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree desirable to make one wise, she took of this fruit and ate. She also gave to her husband that was with her and ate it. You can read more about this in Ephesians, the second chapter, beginning 2 and 3. So rather than do things the way God said to do it, Adam figured he could launch out into his own and take a few expedient shortcuts. He can do it a little bit better than that. So let's turn over to Genesis, the third chapter. Go back to you always have to go back here, don't you, to find out what really took place. Beginning in verse 1. Am I in the right place here? It says, now the serpent was more cunning than any of the beasts in the field, which the Lord God had made. And he said to the woman, Has God indeed said, you shall not eat of every tree in the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees in the garden, but the fruit which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, you shall not eat of it, nor shall you touch it, lest you die. Then the serpent said to the woman, you shall not surely die, for God knows that in the day that you eat of it, your eyes will be open, and you'll be like God, knowing good and evil. So when the woman saw the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, a tree desirable to make one wise, she took of the fruit, and ate. She also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. Then the eyes of both of them were open, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together to make themselves a covering. So what they did, that mistake right there, they paid a great price for what they did, a great penalty for this wrong decision they had made. They not only lost their tenure in the Garden of Eden, but incurred some rather stiff ecological penalties as well. Pick it up in verse 17, see what happened to these. Now remember, this is ecological, the ecosystem. And he said unto Adam, he, that is God, said, because you have hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, which has eaten of the tree which I commanded thee, saying, Thou shalt not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for thy sake. In sorrow shall you eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread until you return to the ground, for out of it wast thou taken, for dust thou art, and dust thou shalt return. So that bad decision they made, they paid a hard price for that, didn't they? They could have eternal life, but they chose to go the other way. They chose to reject God and his manual of how to take care of this earth, how to take care of themselves, and believe Satan the devil. From that point on, human history has been a continuous chronicle of one environmental disaster after another. You can watch some of these channels called great disasters, great engineering disasters, great disasters that have taken place down through the ages, and how bad they have become because of this decision right here of Adam and Eve. The ecosystem is all messed up because of them. So what happened? Adam's son Cain continued in his father's footsteps. This is what the Jewish historian Josephus records about Cain, that he forced the ground. In other words, he didn't take care of the ground. He force-fed it, or forced it to produce something it shouldn't be producing, or something like that. But that's what Josephus says. He forced the ground. In other words, Cain's economic profit came ahead of ecological. I get it right here in a minute. Ecological principle. He wanted money out of that ground. That's what he wanted. And he forced it to produce money instead of taking care of it. By the time Noah came along on the scene a few centuries later, the world was in a sad state of ecological affairs. Genesis 6th chapter. So you can see from that point on, that man was trying to take all he can take out of the earth, no matter what, and not let the earth take care of him, and you take care of it in the proper way. In Genesis 6th chapter, in verse 11 and 12, says, the earth also was corrupt before God, and all flesh was corrupted upon the earth. And we all know that God intervened by flooding the earth for 40 days and nights of water. And after the flood, God did what? He made a unique covenant with Noah. Genesis 9, beginning of verse 13. Genesis 9, verse 13. God said, I do set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for a token of the covenant between me and the earth, and I will remember my covenant, which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh. In other words, he was not going to flood the earth again. And that bow was there as a sign he would never do it. He would keep his promise. I'm sure that people in South Carolina and North Carolina this past summer maybe have thought differently, and people in Houston and these people who live in Bangladesh and those areas over there which have tsunamis and flooding all the way and tidal waves, but he would not do the entire earth that way. Years after Noah's flood, God decided to call one nation, that was Israel, to carry on where Adam and the rest of mankind failed. So he's going to do this. God intended for Israel to be a nation showpiece for the rest of the world. Let's turn over to Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter. And beginning with let's begin in verse 1 here. Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter, verse 1. Now, O Israel, listen to the statutes and judgments what I teach you to observe, that you may live and go in and possess the land which the Lord your God, your fathers, has given you. You shall not add to the word which I have commanded you, nor take away from it, that you may keep the commandments of the Lord your God, which I have commanded you. Your eyes have seen what the Lord did to Baal Peor, for the Lord your God has destroyed them from among you all, and the men who followed Baal Peor. But you held fast to the Lord your God, and you are alive today, every one of you. Surely I have taught you statutes and judgments, just as the Lord my God commanded me, that you should act according to them in the land which you go and possess. Therefore be careful to observe them, for this is your wisdom, this is your understanding in the sight of the people who will hear all the statutes and say, surely this great nation has a wise and understanding people. Before I want to go two more. For what great nation is there that has God so near to it, as the Lord our God is to us, for whatever reason we may call upon him? And what great nation is there that has such statutes and righteous judgments as are in all this law which I have set before you? So he gave them that. They were to be the first fruit of the nations around him. They were to set the example. He intended them to do that. All they had to do to qualify was what? Obey. Obey the statutes, obey the judgments and the laws that God set before them. That's all he had to do. Obedience would mean fabulous physical blessings. Disobedience would bring just the opposite results. And you read about those results in Deuteronomy 28 and Leviticus 26. Interestingly enough, many of the laws that God gave Israel specifically dealt with what? Environmental matters. Environmental matters. I think I'm about to lose my voice here. Excuse me. God instructed Israel to proper care of the soil, waste disposal, sanitation, timber management, animal husbandry, and wildlife conservation. So many of the blessings and curses listed in Deuteronomy 28 and Leviticus 26 were related to ecological matters. God made the earth ecosystems to be used by man for his substance and for his pleasure. Man should not tax the environment beyond its natural capacity. That's what we're doing. That's what man has done. Getting everything he can out of the earth and not putting anything back. It's all for himself. The old approach, perhaps, is summed up by one of the major spiritual prophets. Thou shalt not steal. Man has tried to steal from the earth and not give anything back. Not to put it back. Take care of it. This is our only home. We have no place else to go. I know they think they're going to go to Mars up there and live up there and make it a better place, but you're just stupid. It's not going to happen. But this is our only home. There's nowhere we can go. So why don't we take care of our home? Our earth is our home. It feeds us. It does everything it's supposed to do for the people, and we won't take care of it. We destroy it. This finely tuned piece of machinery that God gave us to live on, and we haven't got enough sense to take care of it. It doesn't make sense at all, does it? So Israel, rather than follow God's way of sharing and giving, they chose the selfish route that Adam and Eve took. The Bible doesn't specifically tell us every one of Israel's national sins, environmental transgressions, but obviously were involved in this. Well, he was so upset with him. Go back and look. This is probably a dual prophecy right here in Leviticus 26, verse 33. I'll give you time to turn. I already got it written down. Leviticus, the 26th chapter, beginning in verse 33. And see what he says about this. What they have done, the environmental transgressions that Israel did. And that's today to us. He says, I will scatter you among the heathen, and I'll draw out a sword after you. Your land shall be desolate. Doesn't sound too good, does it? And your city shall be waste. Then shall the land enjoy her Sabbaths as long as it lies desolate, and you be in your enemy's land, even then shall the land rest and enjoy her Sabbath. So these people out there in California who's got all this nice soil, and in Florida and in the Midwest there where they plant the wheat and stuff, I wonder if they ever have a Sabbath rest for the land as God instructed them to do. I doubt it. I doubt it. They may rotate their crops, maybe something like that, but I'm not even sure of that. But they will not allow the land to rest so it can replenish itself. They just take and take and take as much as they can. And they wonder why they have such problems. Just like Cain, Israel thought more about what they could get from the soil than they could put back into it. And it has brought on famine, disease, and everything else. By the time Israel went into captivity, her land was in waste of extreme depletion. Jeremiah gives us a brief description of that land, of what Israel did not do and take care of the environment around them, the ecosystem. They didn't do it. It's Jeremiah, the 12th chapter, and verse 4. He said, how long shall the land mourn? Herbs and every field wither, for the wickedness of them that dwell therein. The beasts are consumed, the birds, because they said, they shall not see our last end. So there's something wrong here with Israel. And we know it's still going on today. They didn't do it back then. They had the opportunity to do it. They had the opportunity to be a showcase of every type. The laws of God, the land. Now, if you go over there today, and the newspapers will not show you this because they want to make Israel look bad, or Judah, but they've done a fairly good job of beautifying that place. But you'll never see that. All you see is the barren lands where the Palestinian people live like that. That's all you ever see from them. But ancient Israel paid a price for her national sins. They eventually lost what they had become to live in, called the land of milk and honey. They lost it because they wouldn't take care of it. They wouldn't obey God's laws. They wouldn't obey the environmental laws that God set before them. They wouldn't do anything God told them to do. As a result of that, today, you see it today because of disobedience. Today, the hot, arid, and parched conditions, much of the Holy Land, bears witness to her former inhabitants' treatment of the environment. It's because of them. They could have showed the world how to live. They had the right person in charge, God. He gave them the right laws. He told them how to take care of the land, all that stuff that needed to be a showcase to the entire world. And they probably worked for a little while. But eventually, they quit obeying God. And you can see the result today when you look over there. Like I say, the people won't show you what Israel has done to try to beautify that earth, that little parched land over there, but all around about it. It's because of them. No other nation since that time has ever come close to treating the environment with respect that is due. We don't do it today. We simply don't do it. The Romans didn't do it. The Greeks didn't do it. The Europeans didn't do it. The Americans didn't do it. They have all left a legacy on the ecological sins of the earth. It's there. Dig, take, and never take care of anything which supplies our life. Our oceans are polluted. Who knows how much junk nations go out there and dump their junk, and we don't know anything about it. They're overfishing. That's why the fish are acting probably the way they act. They won't take care of anything. Or clean water. When's the last time you had a clean water that has not been treated with chlorine and all this other stuff? That's what I drink. Unless I go buy it at a bottle, and it's probably the same stuff you get out of your tap. There's no clean water that I know of. You've got to do something with it in order to drink it. 2,000 years ago, a final solution to manage environmental problems was proclaimed to the world for the very first time. That announcement came in the form of a futuristic message by the greatest prophet who ever lived. His name was Jesus Christ. Much of Christ's message centered around the Olivet prophecy. A few of Christ's disciples wanted to know what would begin the sign of his coming. So Christ laid out a detailed outline or scenario of specific future fulfillments that are going to come to pass. Notice what he said. He said, first there would arise false prophets, followed by wars and rumors of wars, nations rise against nations, and kingdom against kingdom, famine and pestilence and earthquakes in different places. Now, what causes famine? What causes pestilence? You don't have a pure earth to live in anymore. Nothing is pure anymore. Nothing is good anymore. Even if you had a garden that you planted and ate, you depend on the rain to make it grow, but the rain is polluted. because of the pollution in the rest of the world. It moves all over this earth. That's what, like I say, what's going on in China. It doesn't stay right there. The winds, the jet stream blows it all over the place. And we get all that stuff. But in the 6th chapter of the book of Revelation, the same sequence of events is described by the well-known, as we know them, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. John's vision came 20 years after the severe local Jewish war and famine in 70 AD. But that was just a localized thing there. That the famine was so bad that cannibalism was taking place in Jerusalem at that time because they had no food to eat and things of this nature and just crazy stuff. So what Christ was talking about and what you read about in the book of Revelation, 6th chapter there, this is future. The things that are coming back in the very future, probably not too many years from now. The 4 horsemen were only symbolically to ride at the time of a 200 million army was to emerge in the east. Much more was involved in this prophecy than wars and famine and plagues. In the 8th chapter, now watch what happens here. If this deals with the environment. This deals with the ecosystem. In the 8th chapter of Revelation, and ecological disasters are included in this. Beginning in verse 7 in chapter 8. So the third part of the trees was burned up, and all green grass was burned up, and the third part of the sea became blood, and the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and alive had died. And there fell a great star from heaven, which burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers, and upon the mountains of fountains of waters, and the name of the star was called Wormwood. Do you know that Chernobyl was called Wormwood? Where that nuclear plant exploded, and it's called Wormwood. But why is it called Wormwood? And the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the water because they were made bitter. They couldn't drink it. Fresh water they couldn't drink. During this time, God is going to punish for the manner in which we have treated the earth. He's going to intervene. He's going to put a stop to it, of destroying this beautiful earth that He gave us to live on. Luke 21, verse 22, Christ describes this time as the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. Just as other types of sin, men will eventually reap what they sow. Revelation, the 11th chapter. Beginning in verse 15. Let me read that. Revelation 11. I'm in Romans. There's almost a new Bible and the pages stick together. And let's pick it up in verse 15. And the 7th angel sounded, and there was loud voices in heaven saying, the kingdoms of this earth have become the kingdoms of our Lord and of His Christ, and He shall reign forever and forever. And the 24 elders who were set before God on their thrones fell down on their faces and worshiped God, saying, We give you thanks, O Lord God Almighty, the one who is and who was and is who is to come. Blessed have you taken your great power and reigned. The nations were angry, and your wrath has come. And in the time of the end of the dead, that they should be judged, that you should reward your servants, the prophets, and the saints, those who fear you, your name, small and great, and should destroy those who have destroyed this earth. And that's exactly what they're going to do. You remember they used to explode atomic weapons in underground. Who knows the damage they did there? And like I say, we're just forcing ourselves on this earth to produce and produce and produce, and never let it rest, never let it regain itself, never let it regenerate itself to make the foods we have that are healthy for us. And we're destroying the things, our very own home. And that's crazy. And not only is our national sin great, but the sin against this earth that we are doing to it is just nonsense. But they don't care. As long as they can get a few dollars out of this earth, that's all that counts. And I don't think those men who are digging this earth up to find gold is straightening the mess they've made out. I don't know if they do or not. Even on this, the secrets of Oak Island, whatever it is, they're over there tearing that place up, trying to find a few pieces of gold. And it's just greed from Adam and Eve, chose the wrong way, and we've been going that way ever since. We will not do what God has instructed us to do to have a healthy earth. A healthy earth means a healthy body. A healthy air to breathe, healthy water to drink. Our food is healthy, but it isn't that way anymore. No. Jesus Christ is going to return to restore the government of God to this earth. And one of the first things he will do to fulfill he'll have to fulfill the second part of the Day of Atonement. He has to do and deal with Satan the devil. He's the instigator behind all of this. So he has to fulfill the second part of the Day of Atonement to put him away so he cannot deceive the human society anymore, as he has done for all 6,000 years. And you can see what we're like around this earth. I've had the privilege of seeing places like Japan, Taiwan, where else did I go? To Bangkok. And I'm sure a lot of it is changing since it's been 40 plus years since I've been there. But when I was there, it was just awful. It was awful. So I'm sure they probably done some technology work on it and made it function better, but I doubt if their ecological system is still as good or is any better than it was when I was there. So that's what he has to do. When he comes back, the first thing he has to do is deal with Satan. He's the one who caused all this influence. Adam and Eve do what they did, and the world has gone that way ever since. Through greed, through lust, and to take and never to give. And God's going, one day he's going to say, enough is enough. I'm coming back. I'm sending my son back. And he's going to start dealing with Satan today. Once he does that, because you can't have two nations ruling at the same time. There'd just be a bitter fight day in, day out between spirit beings fighting all the time. It never would work. So he's got to go. And he's going to put him in a bottomless pit for 1,000 years. And then universal salvation will be available to all people. Turn over to Isaiah, the 52nd chapter, and read that. They talk about, I heard old Obama talk about universal salvation. That's not going to happen yet. It is going to happen, but not yet, and not till the return of Jesus Christ, whether he likes to believe that or not. Isaiah, the 52nd chapter. In verse 10. It says, the Lord has made bare his holy arm, has made bare his holy arm, in his eyes of all the nations, and the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of our God. In other words, all the people who's going to be left alive at that time when he sits his feet on the Mount of Olives will have their eyes open, and salvation will be offered to them. You can read that back into the 45th chapter of Isaiah, 45th chapter. And verse 22, Isaiah 45th chapter, verse 22. It says, look to me and be saved, all you ends of the earth, for I am the Lord your God, and there is no other. So they will be looking for him. They're not now, because their eyes have been deceived by the God of this world. But once that veil is removed, and they see who God really is, and they see the error of their way, then salvation is going to be offered to them, to every human being on this earth. Men will be taught God's law under the jurisdiction of the government of God, whether they like it or not. And they won't at first. They will not, because their minds have been deceived for 6,000 years of all these different religions on this earth. And there's only one true religion. It's the one you and I belong to. The ecosystem will flourish as never before. The transformation is now going to take place on planet Earth. Things are going to look a lot better upon the return of Jesus Christ, even though the earth is going to be almost completely destroyed, as we shall read a little later here. The ecosystem will flourish as never before. Desert lands will be reclaimed, oceans and fresh water will be purified. You are just drinking right out of the stream. It'll be good for you. Eventually, the world will achieve such a pinnacle of ecological success that God the Father is going to what? He's going to come here. He's going to move the headquarters from where he is now in the third heaven to this earth. Everything is going to be purified. It's going to be beautified. It's going to be a wonderful place to live upon the return of Jesus Christ. It's going to take a while to do this, but eventually it'll be done. This future ecological heritage of planet Earth is a transformation of planet Earth is coming. And I thought I wrote that down here, what it's going to do, what's going to happen here. Yeah, I did. Prophecies such as future worldwide ecological calamities are not limited to the New Testament alone. This is one right here. When the Protestant reads this, I don't understand why he can't see what it says. Turn to Isaiah, the 24th chapter. Now look what it says and why it's going to happen. Why these calamities are going to happen to this earth and to the people of this earth. Beginning of verse 3, it says, the land shall be utterly empty and utterly spoiled, for the Lord has spoken this word. The earth mourns and fades away. The world languishes and fades away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have what? Because they have transgressed the God's laws, changed the ordinances, broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore hath the curse devoured the earth, and they shall dwell therein in desolate, and are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few left. And that tells you right there. They've broken everything that God has instructed us to do. They refused to use this instruction book, which is the manual how to operate not only our minds and how one mind can get along with the other mind, but how to operate this earth to make it still a beautiful Garden of Eden. But we won't do that. We will not do that. Our greed, our lust, and our carnal minds will not allow us to do that. We want to take as much as we can take. The carnal mind is a taking thing. It takes, and never gives back. And we have destroyed our very planet, in which we have no place we have to live. And God said, because you've done this, because you have broken my manual, and you will not follow my instructions I have given you to how to live a happy and prosperous life, but also how to keep your land in good, tip-top shape and produce wonderful fruits and things for us. If you won't do that, you broke that covenant, I'm going to break you. I'm going to shake this earth as has never been shaken before. And you'll know that I am God. There is none like me. And you will wake up. He goes over to Hosea, another prophet, in Hosea, the 4th chapter. And he's talking to us, to the inhabitants of the earth. Hosea, the 4th chapter. I'll give you a second to turn there and find it. And we've done this. Even when I was a little boy, I'd go swimming in a creek, and it was filthy. I don't know how I ever made it alive. All that, I used to swim, and it was muddy, all the filth in there. But I'm still here. Back then, it was still a horrible place. Verse 1, Hosea the 4th chapter. For the Lord has a controversy with the inhabitants of the land, because there is no truth, no mercy, nor knowledge of God in the land. If they had the knowledge, they got the book, don't they? It says this is the best-selling book in the world. Everyone's got one or two in their house, but no one pays any attention to the instruction manual, which contains the knowledge of God. By swearing and by lying and by killing and stealing and committing adultery, they break out, and blood touches blood. Therefore shall the land mourn, and everyone that dwells therein shall languish. With the beasts of the field and with the fowls of heaven, yea, the fishes of the sea shall also be taken away. when you don't have anything to eat, when the water is not purified, and you have to eat what you can find to eat, and animals are also going to be hungry also. They're going to look for things to eat and whatever they can find to eat. Gives rise to pestilence and famine because we have destroyed this earth. Look at all the wasted land in the Sahara and the Gobi deserts and all these other deserts where there's nothing to live out there, grow out there. It's just sand. From these prophets, it seems to reveal that occur in a tandem with wars and famines and plagues. So all this is going to happen to this earth. He says he's going to shake this earth in Isaiah 24 chapter. He's going to shake it to wake us up. Because that's not our purpose, is to destroy this earth. Our purpose is, while we're on this earth, is to become a spiritual copy of God. To be just like Him, to have His mind, to have His laws embedded in our minds, that we cannot sin ever again, and to become part of His family, to take care of things the way He took care of the earth and takes care of us. So, man left to himself. That's what has happened. In such miserable conditions would surely perish off the face of this earth. And that's exactly what Jesus Christ said. He said, if I don't intervene, if I do not come back to this earth, every living thing is going to die. So He's going to intervene to stop it. He's going to intervene for the elect's sake to stop it, to stop the destruction of human beings, to stop the destruction of the land which gives us the food and the water we drink. If He didn't do that, folks, we're all dead. We're all dead. I understand starvation is a hard way to go. Very painful way to go. He said, but I'm going to shorten those days because if I don't do that, if my Father doesn't send me back, then we're all dead. It's going to be God. It's not going to be technology. It's not going to be science who will eventually deliver man from his self-made ecological problems. They think they can. They think they have the solution to all our problems. And they don't, because they won't read the instruction, but they'll read the manual that tells us how to do that. So we've come to this point in human history that our ecosystem is messed up. Nothing works. Nothing works like it should work. The earth doesn't work as it should work because we've destroyed it. And He's going to destroy those who have destroyed this earth. And that may be hard for some people to understand that, but that's what exactly He said He's going to do. He says, my word will not return to me void. What I said is going to happen, it's going to happen. The only thing can stop this from happening is true repentance. And that simply is not going to happen. There's too many gods on this earth. And none of them are the real God. And they don't worship the real God because they don't know who He is. Because they don't have, like Hosea said, they have no knowledge of Me because they will not read the instruction book. The manual I've gave to this earth, as Abraham Lincoln said, this is the best gift that God has ever given to mankind is the Bible. And it tells us who He is, what we are, how we are to maintain our life on this earth, and how to take care of the property He has given us to take care of. But we will not listen. We think we know more than God. That's what thinking. Satan said, I know more than you. God does. Do it my way, Adam. Do it my way, Eve. And they did. And the result is that we're all going to die unless Jesus Christ intervenes. That is simple as I can put it. So He gave us this earth to take care of. And we're not doing a very good job at it. This is where we live. This is our home. There is no other place we can go. So why not take care of something that God has given us to take care of and have a healthy, happy life? But we will not do that until Jesus Christ intervenes and put a stop to all of it.